Hello, welcome to the show where I talk to you about things that I want to talk about that no one else wants to talk about, I guess, and or just venting. I got an intro though. So we're gonna see if this gets the sound right and all that, but I have a little desk tripod for vlogging and shit like that. I just didn't bother dragging it out because this is sort of a maiden voyage here. This is basically something that I've been thinking about doing for a long time. You know, just like a little side project of, you know, I guess it doesn't need to be a show, but like everyone, there's things that I want to talk about that I don't feel like always present themselves in conversation socially or whatever, and this would be a good way to not only get it out, but hopefully if anyone watches these and they can relate to it or whatever, they can comment on it or whatever. The show's primarily probably going to be about video games, just because that's what I like to do and or talk about, but it's also going to be just a place for me to vent or talk about life or the universe or whatever, but primarily it's going to be the video game thing. I guess I'll start with just describing, sorry, I'm clicking around here, it's going to be loud. The story behind the regular Lemonade name, the moniker, my internet moniker. I wouldn't say persona. Internet persona is sort of like if I acted differently, but it's not really the case. I don't think regular Lemonade is a character, but moniker would be more accurate. So to get to the gist of it, it started from a RuneScape account, and the original name was I Make Ponin Lemonade. I Make Ponin Lemonade. Ponin is it was Leet speak basically from around the 2007 to 2010 time period ish, and probably a little before. You would say pwn instead of own, and owning someone was like, oh, you got owned. It was like you got wrecked, you got, you know, shit on, whatever, you got destroyed. And so that was just a word that wasn't actually in my vocabulary. I don't think I ever actually like said that I pwn or I pwned someone. It was sarcastic. It was sort of like the way people would say swag, you know, but ironically. But this is prior to that. So there was a time when playing Flash games on a web browser was really popular, and that was around the time when I was first sort of getting on the internet in an independent capacity or whatever. Me and my friends, you know, go on there playing on Armor games or Addicting games or Mini Clip or Crazy Monkey games, playing, you know, Hell Assault 3 and, you know, watching Madness clips, and, you know, there's an endless amount of Flash game videos, nostalgia bait videos that you could go out there, but there was one in particular that was you had to make a lemonade stand, and it was sort of like a business sim light for lemonade making. And you know, I was staying at a friend of mine's house up late playing games, and then somehow we ended up just like derping around on a computer playing Flash games, and this was, one of them. And it was this lemonade stand game where you had to sort of like, you started with whatever, $20 or $50 or whatever it was, and it cost, a handful of dollars to get sugar and lemons and all that. And then you had to make your own lemonade recipe. And I didn't really try. I wasn't trying to actually make good lemonade. We were kind of just messing around, but I put a shit ton of sugar in this lemonade in this Flash game, and it bombed horribly. It was really bad. And so we just thought that was funny, messed around with that for a little bit. After that, went to start a RuneScape account, because this was back when RuneScape was popular, and my friend was like, hey, you should start a RuneScape account so we can play RuneScape. I was like, okay, cool. Go to make my account, and this was prior to me really ever having any internet sort of like name at all. I mean, I didn't even know if I had a MySpace at that time, but even if I did, it would have just been my name. I didn't have Xbox Live yet, I don't think. Or maybe my dad did, but I was just playing under his name, which was not my internet label. But so I go to make this RuneScape account, and I make a character that looks like Trunks from Dragon Ball Z, and I name it I Make Ponin Lemonade. Because for whatever reason, at that time in RuneScape, you can use that many characters for the whole name. I Make Ponin Lemonade. And I probably didn't even play 4 hours on that RuneScape account. Maybe not even like 2. But for whatever reason, the name stuck out to me. I just thought it was funny or something. And then eventually I did get my own Xbox Live account, and I named that Ponin Lemonade, because I had to shorten it. I Make Ponin Lemonade didn't fit in their character limit, so it became Ponin Lemonade. And so this was around the time of like 7th grade. So I had an Xbox 360 and the Ponin Lemonade account for a lot of, what you would say are the formative years of my life, but in particular, my video gaming adolescence, the time period in my life where my video game tastes and knowledge were really sort of planted, and carried me all the way through to when I got a PlayStation 4. Now I had a PS3, and on PS3, for whatever reason, I had to make my account name Ponin Lemonade 3. That wasn't because it was a PS3. I don't remember why I had to add 3, but I did. I don't know why it was a 3 and not a 2 or a 7. It was a 3. That's still out there somewhere. But when I got a PS4, I remember at the time my high school girlfriend and my parents split the cost of PS4 because it was pretty new. I got it, would have been the spring after it came out. So if it came out in fall of 2013, I probably got it around sometime March or April in 2014. It was really cool, That was a really awesome present, really awesome time, etc. Maybe not so awesome. It was complicated, but when I got it, I remember I was really excited to play, and I didn't feel like messing around with trying to get my PS3 account over to my PS4 account, which was probably short-sighted. I mean, literally it was short-sighted in my sense, but also I knew at the time you couldn't change your PSN name. That was actually something you couldn't do until only like a year or 2 ago, 3 years ago, maybe. Fairly recently. And so I'm just going to check to make sure it's still recording real quick. Perfect. Lovely. Hopefully you enjoyed that glance at my hand. So when I got the PS4, wanted a new name. You couldn't change it, so I had to make a new account. And what did I do? I was thinking that I wanted to keep the lemonade, but I didn't want it to be Ponin lemonade anymore. And I was trying to think of like other adjectives that you could put ahead of it, you know. Shout out to one of my dad's friends on Xbox. He had an account called Armored Toaster. That was cool. I think a cousin of mine had something like Symphonic Emu, you know, so I was always a fan of the like adjective noun or adjective noun naming conventions. And still to this day, I think that that's the best naming convention for online names. I mean, you could do like 2 adjectives or 2 nouns or like whatever it is, you know, but like, I don't like all the numbers or the like XX_XX and stuff like that, or symbols or emoticons. Another friend of mine is Sick Bow, as in he's got 6 skills with a bow sort of thing, bow and arrow. So I was thinking about all these things, and here's where we get to the crux of the regular lemonade title. Is I've always been a bit of a history buff, a fan of history, and one of the more interesting periods of history to me, among many others, is the American Revolutionary period of time where, you know, obviously this is the founding of the country that I live in. It's, you know, relevant to me more than I guess other people internationally, but anyone that could even hypothetically be watching this is definitely going to be not only from the United States, but definitely from Ohio, but I digress. The regulars or the regular militia is what referred to sort of basically like an alternative title to like the Minutemen. There was the actual Continental Army of the United States. Well, it wasn't the United States yet, but the Continental Army is what George Washington was the general of, and the regulars were sort of like, well, a militia. It was people that weren't necessarily part of the Continental Army, but it was all sort of like, there's a gray area of like militia, army, blah, blah, blah. Like there wasn't, it's not like there was a lot of professional soldiers in the Continental Army necessarily because of the nature of it being, you know, a rebellion, a revolution. So yeah, it has nothing to do, the name Regular Lemonade had nothing to do with it being not pink or plain lemonade or old time lemonade or, you know, fair, super sugary lemonade. It has to do with like a militia regular and then just lemonade onto it. And so then for whatever reason at that point, you know, it's not like I never thought, or rather, it's not like I ever thought the name was particularly clever. Like, it's not like I was like, oh, this is so, like, catchy or unique or creative. But I just found like it had, like, a smoothness to it. Like, it was very, like, inoffensive, but, like, pleasant without being like cutesy. It did seem obviously more grown than Ponin lemonade. You know, there was, dare I say it, a subtle sophistication in the name Regular Lemonade, which is giving myself way too much credit, but I liked it. I took to it, and so all of my internet phenomenon titles became Regular Lemonade because it just became something that no one else had, something that was easy for me to get, something that most games or game services had available. And that was it. You know, after the races, I became portrayed as Regular Lemonade on the internet from that point on. Not that I have a lot of, like, internet content. Like, I don't know if there's really anyone in my life that would have like known me by Regular Lemonade or like primarily by Regular Lemonade or anything like that, because even on like my YouTube videos, You know, the ones that are like my songs or whatever, like I either have no name on it or whatever, or I have my name on it, my actual name on it. You know, so it's not like I have an internet presence as regular Lemonade beyond just sort of being online with the name regular Lemonade, but I've always had an affinity for it. So that's why I've always thought of like, you know, if I did a podcast or a whatever, blah, 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 assuming that I could, you know, be in creative control of it and it wasn't like some sort of like group project type thing, I would have always called it the regular Lemonade Show, just to sort of be a send up to that, as if, you know, I'm on the internet talking about being on the internet and who I am on the internet being on the internet. You know, it seems like representative of it. You know, I think that the Jordan Hager Show would be weird, or like trying to make up a spontaneous like video game show name or whatever would sort of be limiting, because if I wanted to talk about things that weren't necessarily video game related, then it would be like weird, like if I called it like, you know, I have a name for a show like that would have a video game specific name title to it, but I don't know if I want to say it unless someone steals it. But I'll save that for another time. Maybe next time I'll say what my cool video game podcast title idea is. But then the thing is like, I'm not going to have a video game podcast anytime soon, because that's going to be this show, you know. And let's see, it's Tuesday. I would like to do this once a week. You know, I could probably do every Tuesday, you know, or upload it Wednesday. I don't know. Or, I don't know. I guess I could save it and upload it like every Monday morning or Friday morning or something like that. I don't know. What would be the best time to get picked up by the algorithm? Probably none. But that's okay. I'm not like trying to make this into a thing necessarily. I'm just trying to be diligent about it for myself, you know. So I guess recording and uploading every Tuesday would be the easiest, I guess, but I digress. You know, and I think going forward, these might have a little bit more structure. You know, if I'm going to do something that's completely off the cuff like this, I would, you know, title it that way. You know, like this one, I'm going to say, you know, the regular Lemonade Show, episode 1 dash, the story behind the name or something like that. You know, but in general, it's just going to be a place for me to talk about games, game news, what I've been playing, you know, developments in AI or technology or shit like that I think is interesting or provocative, in a way that I can be as unfiltered as myself as I want to be, because I'm not bouncing it off of someone else that I might have to necessarily like gauge their, you know, previous knowledge or opinions on X, Y, or Z. So with that, I think I'll wrap it up. I don't know how long I'm planning to make these necessarily. Probably either half an hour or an hour to start. I don't know. I mean, I could probably talk for an hour about video games. Like, that's not like something that I can't do. But in terms of like just to get in the rhythm, I'll probably start with half an hour just like as a goal, and then also just sort of, you know, limit the time that I'm taking out of my day. For now, I might do more later, but just to get in the swing of things and have it be consistent, it'll probably be about half an hour. So I guess just to wrap it up, we'll just talk about what I've been playing. And I've been messing around with a few different things. Um, I played through 3/4 ish of Saints Row 2 just to get a bit of a nostalgia trip, because that was just a fun game for me at the time back in the day. Like, it came out in 2009, I think. And the character customization was really good in it. And I'm sure if I keep this up in the next, few episodes, I'll start to talk about character customization in games more and more. But I'm like a real, like, borderline, like, touched in the head focus on my character customization. Like, in games like Saints Row 2 and games like Rainbow Six Vegas 2 back then, or GTA Online now, or a Dragon Age, like whatever it is, like, I'm always going and changing my character's, like, look and stuff, and just like tweaking stuff and trying to imagine things in my head and try to build them on my character in the game and see what you can do with all the options there. So Saints Row 2 was actually the first Saints Row I played. I still haven't played the first one, and from what I've heard, it's not super necessary. It's basically just a worse version of the second one. And I've played 3 and 4, but 4 is like basically a totally different thing. And 3, to me, felt just like a weird, sort of like watered down version of 2. Like, I liked 2 better, but Saints Row 2 had, like, you can customize your character, your gang members, a bunch of different weapons. You can customize your character's, like, fighting ability. I like games that have a lot of, like, melee options and different melee animations. Like, another one that does something similar is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. You can learn 3 different melee, like, fighting styles that give you different moves. And I just think that's fun. It's like, it's almost like extraneous, because in a lot of those games, the melee is like pretty much completely unviable in terms of actual, like, gameplay. Like, you're not actually going to effectively be getting in fistfights with enemies during, like, a mission, not in any sort of critical capacity. It's basically just to, beat up pedestrians, I guess, at that point. Which is why, to go off on a tangent here, a game like Sleeping Dogs, which came out 2010, 2011, is, that's really good, because it has, gunplay and firearms, but it's actually predominantly melee. It's almost the opposite of, like, a San Andreas or a Saints Row 2, where you have guns sometimes, but not really all the time. And most of the game is putting you in situations where you're expected to fistfight your way out of the game. Then some Grand Theft Auto games, or Saints Row 2 actually has this as well, have sort of like side activities where you get in a fight club type of thing, and then it's obviously a specific activity where it puts you in a situation where you can use the melee combat, which, like, is fine. It's a bit of a half measure, but so I've been playing Saints Row 2. I ended up just dropping it just because I got my fill, and, like, I could take it all the way to the end, but, like, I've beaten that game a lot, and I beat 2 of the 3 gangs in it, and then there's also the 4th gang is the Ultor Corporation. So I got more than half of it, just because I did a lot of the activities too, which probably burnt me out a bit on it, because I just, like, was, like, going through them to get all the upgrades and stuff, because you can do activities in it where you'll get infinite ammo or infinite sprint time or certain weapons or blah blah blah, stuff like that. No fall damage, like, things that are really useful. But then I had just, like, been like, oh, well, before I really get into the story, like, I better do this and this just so I can breeze through the story. But then I ended up playing more activities in the story anyways. But another thing that I've been really big on lately is Warframe. And Warframe has been going on for like over a decade now, and I remember playing it on the PS4 because it was a free-to-play PS4. I don't know if it was actually at launch, like literally, but it was pretty soon after launch. And I remember at the time, like, it was cool, it was fun, but I didn't really get it. And I don't know if that was me being young and dumb, even though I was like 18, so I wasn't that young or that dumb. Well, that young, maybe not that dumb, not at least in terms of video games, you know. But I didn't go out of my way to sort of investigate what the best sort of like on-ramp path would be for someone that didn't understand what that game was trying to be. And also that was before Destiny or GT Online or all these other sort of things had really become prevalent, where there, you know, there were MMOs, you know, obviously Warcraft, and then Star Wars: Old Republic, and then there was all sorts of weird Korean free-to-play browser MMOs that I used to play, but that's another tangent. But at the time when Warframe came out, the sort of like looter shooter, MMO shooter, whatever sort of, you know, party shooter, blah, 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 like whatever sort of, you know, genre you want to put it in, that wasn't really a thing. Like it had just started to get off the ground, and so Warframe was sort of in that realm, and I hadn't understood it yet. You know, I played the original Destiny, and I sort of went through the story and beat it, and then was sort of like, all right, that's cool, you know, and like I didn't play it anymore, you know, because I didn't get it yet. Or like GT Online was another one where like I played it and I messed around with it, and I was like, this is cool, you know, but I didn't really get the whole like persistent thing. Like played a while, and then, you know, you can play it all the time or every day or like whatever, do your dailies and stuff like that, or you can like play it a bunch and drop it for a while and come back a couple months later, maybe there's another thing, blah blah blah. So nowadays, 10 years later, there's been 10 years of content that have been out of this game iteratively, and I, you know, have been not really paying attention to it. I mean, I would see, you know, articles here and there mentioning this or that, you know, like where I knew about the arc wings or the arch wings, where you can go fly around in space, or you have like a hoverboard and you can do Tony Hawk tricks on it, you know. But they've added all these different things. They added like, you know, side campaigns and all sorts of story content, and there's like a weird mech thing you can have now. But I personally had more experiences with games like that in the previous decade, obviously. And so when, I don't know, it must have just like been like a YouTube recommendation that I clicked on one day talking about like why you should play Warframe in 2023 or 2024, like whatever, something like that, where I was just watching it for kicks, and it, you know, it worked. It got me to start a new account or whatever, and actually look up a couple videos on how to start out with it and get going the right way and figure out how it actually works and how you're supposed to progress and do X, Y, and Z. But so I've been playing that a lot and enjoying it. Well, the gameplay is just good. It's just cool. It's fun. It's fast. There's so many things in that game that were added just because it would be cool. You know, like they don't need to put nunchucks in the game, but it'd be pretty cool if they had nunchucks, you know? So they have like the hoverboard, the wings, whatever, you know, pets, all sorts of stuff. It's really cool. Space ninjas, they all got different powers. You know, it's just a good, very wide palette of sort of gameplay systems and options, you know, where you can customize a lot and set up your build to be, you know, a super status effect fire damage guy or like whatever. But then, you know, you have the different warframes that have different powers. And then one thing that it does that I really like is, and it's sort of, you know, a mental leap to accept or get used to initially, is in a Destiny or Diablo or whatever, or most games that have loot like that, you pick up a weapon and you get it. It's like you're picking up weapons all the time in Destiny. You're picking up weapons, you know, every boss you kill in Diablo. And in Warframe, enemies don't directly drop weapons. Sometimes they can drop blueprints. And what happens is you go back to your spaceship, your little base, and you have to farm for resources to make the blueprints, and then you make a weapon. But when you make it, it takes time, real life time, for it to craft itself. So like you can make a rifle and it could take 12 hours to be finished, you know, and then Warframe, which is like the different characters, have like 3 days to finish, and it's real life time, you know. And that might seem kind of annoying, like that's dumb, why not just like give me the thing that I unlocked and move on with my life? But then you realize, or I realize for myself, you know, for people that feel differently, that it gives sort of like a weight and a gravity to each thing that you do, because instead of it just being like, and there are a lot of weapons in the game for sure, but instead of it just being like, here's, you know, a random, you know, data set of this model of assault rifle, and you can have, you know, anywhere between these different stats, and then you can roll for this different bonuses, and then it's blue if it has one, you know, status effect, and it's purple if it has two, or like whatever it is. Like instead of just having like sort of this loot table, it really is just like, that's that gun, and you have to go get it here and then make it, and then it takes time for you to get it, and then you get it, then you're like, cool, I have this gun. Then you have to level it up to add more mods to it and stuff like that. But so it gives us sort of like a weight to every individual weapon that you get, because even like the easy weapons to get like take time. Like, you know, you can't just sort of burn through a bunch of weapons in the first night you're playing. Like even things that you can get almost immediately, it's still like you're gonna not get it till the next day that you start playing, you know. And that sounds like designed tedium, but it's not. It's allowing you to be invested in a game that's designed to get you to be invested in it, you know. It's a lifestyle game or whatever. You're supposed to play it continuously and for like a long time, or you know, it's not supposed to be like, oh, like let's play through the campaign and then you're done. It's like they're adding content and you're investing your time, and it's, you know, this reciprocal relationship that you have between the player and the developers. And this is sort of a diegetic, you know, ludonarratively resonant way to incorporate that. And I like it, you know, because it does make all the weapons matter more, you know, because then if it's not just something right off the rip where you know, like, yeah, you have to wait 12 hours to get it, but you can get all the resources immediately, and then you just play it the next day and you have it. There's ones that it's like, this is a hard to get sword. You have to go here and do this to get this blueprint, and then the resources are only here, so you have to do X, Y, and Z to get it. And then by the time you get all the resources just to start the crafting, you're already invested in the story of you getting this weapon, and then you start the crafting timer and it's 24 hours, you know. And then maybe just because of your actual life, you know, you start it on a Saturday, but then Sunday night you're not gonna be able to play, Monday night you're not gonna be able to play, you know, you're busy doing stuff or whatever, and maybe you don't actually get to use your cool new sword until Wednesday, but you spent the whole time just thinking about just one weapon, you know what I mean? Whereas opposed to Destiny, you know, obviously there's exotics, but most of the just regular weapons that you get in that game, you're not really thinking about the last random SMG that you picked up in Destiny for 4 days while you wait for it to, you know, cook. And that just makes, I don't know, Warframe's been super cool, and they're coming out with new content sometime later this year. They're coming out with a whole different game called Soulframe, which is going to be more fantasy, magic, you know, etc. That looks really cool. So I just feel like right now has been a good time to get into the Warframe content. And for me, it has been, you know, I've been enjoying that. Other than that, it's sort of been one of those periods where I feel like I'm just bouncing off of everything. You know, I'm like, oh man, I kind of feel like playing this. And then I do. And then I'm like, man, you know, this isn't really engaging me quite as much as I thought it would, you know. So, like, you know, I put Saints Row 2 down. I've been messing around with all sorts of other games. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Maybe next week I'll have something else to say, or maybe next week I'll say I haven't played video games the last 7 days, and now we're going to talk about society. I don't know, but I'm going to wrap this up, gonna move on with my day or my evening, and hopefully you liked hearing me talk at my phone. You probably didn't. I don't imagine much anyone's gonna actually listen to the entire thing all the way through, but I want you to know that if you did, or if you skipped to the end, that I've enjoyed talking about stuff to my phone, and you know, that's good. I think I'm gonna keep doing this. It seems like with slightly more effort, I can set it up to be pretty seamless way to get some of my thoughts out without having to do too much like setup or whatever. Like now that I made my intro, excuse me, with my cat, you know, I can plug that into whatever video I want to do. And in the future, and maybe I should do that for this video. I probably won't. But in the future, I can definitely clip in pictures pretty easily. I don't know if I can clip in videos and overlay those, maybe. But anyways, I digress. I would like to have a cool, catchy sign-off, but I don't.